Wednesday once again, which brings you Viewpoint, the program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. And we sure have a personality and a perspective this morning. And as soon as I make a kudo, we're going to pass the baton to Mrs. Busby. Welcome back, my dear.
Well,
things just kind of fell apart the last, few days since you were gone, but now we have you back from your sabbatical.
Probably because I'm such a marvelous organizer, right? Not so much.
I described it as you being on assignment last week.
Yeah.
Kudos this morning. Next week, we're going to have a young man in the county. Very, very, very impressive. Kind of a mover and a shaker, so to speak. Does a lot of great things for downtown Lincoln, Dave Latterman. And I particularly mentioned that this morning because the kudo would be by the beam. He and his associates have done a marvelous job there. That's big city stuff when you walk in that front door and take a look around. And so kudos to Dave for all of his efforts for downtown Lincoln. We look forward to having him on next week. Why don't you introduce our nice guest this morning?
I'd be proud to. First, I'd like to say...
I'm proud to have him.
Well, I
knowed him when he was a kid.
We two both are. I did too, come to think of it.
Yeah.
At any rate, I want to say hi to our friend Lois Harvey, the Wisconsinite. She makes my day lots of times.
She's our roving reporter, Dave. We have roving reporters here and there. She being the most important roving reporter we have on the staff.
Yeah.
Not paid very well.
I understand.
As in zip.
Well, Dave is fresh from the big celebration with the state bank, and you survived all the cooking of all the pork chops, and I'm proud to hear that.
I did.
Yes, and now moving right on to one of your other hats. Dave is a board member of the Logan County Fair Board, and his family has been involved in the fair for, I suppose, since they invented fairs.
Since 1936 or 7.
A long ways back, yes.
Yeah. Right. With all the Irwin Holsteins, am I true?
That is correct.
Yeah, though the black and white.
That's exactly right. They're still at it every day.
Yeah.
30 of them down already this morning, I'm sure.
Is that right? Yeah.
I was not there, by the way.
You're still in that business, though. I didn't realize you were still doing that.
Yeah, the family's still, my Uncle John and my cousin Steve are still at it out there every day, twice a day. And,
Cowing.
Baling hay. And I think I had a nephew and a cousin that baled 1,500 bales of hay last week, on Friday and Saturday. And so they're still alive and well, and sending some grade A milk to Prairie Farms in Peoria.
That's where you market the milk. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
I'm baling hay. The kids today don't have the fun of baling hay like it used to be. When you ride this is the little days of the square balers,
And that's what they did last week.
Oh, they did.
Oh, yeah.
You don't see that much anymore.
I'm glad I don't have to see it much.
Oh, well, yeah,
you don't see many square bales, but they still. I think our hayloft holds about 1,600 bales out there.
Yeah.
So they still
that was
do
always
it.
the dustiest, dirtiest job on the farm during the summer. And
it's always the hottest day of the world.
Oh, always, yeah.
Always,
put a bandana over your face. You didn't know such thing as surgical mask or anything. Like, you just tied a bandana over your face and hope that to help do the job.
Yes.
I think we got a penny a bale as well for poking wires. We'd you had a little seat you sit on, the bales come through, and you poke wires through, and that grabbed them and then tied the bales. And
now it's all pretty much automatic.
How much will one of these, just as a quick aside, one of these huge big round bales, what do they weigh?
Oh, that's a good question. We need Herman Schwantz or one of our I'm going to say 1,200, 1,500 pounds.
Right?
That's a guess.
Wow.
I should know that, and I don't. But,
well, I've tried hefting those smaller ones for the Busby's horses business, and I thought they weighed that, actually. Those little square ones.
Those square bales are around 80 pounds, 70 to 80 pounds.
And my little sister-in-law, she just tossed those around just like nobody's business, I don't know.
Logan County Fair, 1936 or 37, I can't remember.
Well, I think it's 36.
Yeah. 78 years now.
Yeah.
Think of that.
A long
That's
time.
exactly right.
Yes. That was another job I had early on, selling programs one of the Wilburs, the two great Wilburs out there, Colburn and Lehman.
Yeah.
Wilbur Lehman got a bunch of us high school kids to go out there and sell programs.
For the horse races.
As a matter of fact, I wasn't even into high school yet because I didn't go into high school until 37. And we'd sell those programs, I believe it was 10 cents a piece. This is for the horse race and also the evening horse show. Those were the days when they had the Society Horse Show at night.
Right.
And everybody dressed in jackets and ties and sat out there and got dusty and dirty. But I think we got 20%. We got 10 cents. We got a penny a program. But you know what? Every period of the fair time, we made ourselves a little change.
Oh, yeah.
Selling programs afternoon and evening.
Things were a little different back then.
Yeah, I reckon.
Money was a little
In
different.
so many ways.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
In so many ways.
There's a lot of history out there.
A lot of history.
Now, you have a very viable fair board, and their job today is to oversee that activity. And that ground is used for just more than the Logan County Fair. It's used a lot, isn't it, Dave?
It is. We've got several. There's several cattle shows that go on out there during the year. There's obviously the races that go on, the car races with Lincoln Speedway there. As you know, we have winter storage and that sort of thing where people come and they can store their boats and campers and trailers and whatever they don't have room for at home over the winter time and get them out of the weather. So we do have that. We've also got there's several sales. Mike Moskey's also on our fair board, but there's Dan White and a lot of the auctioneers around. We have facilities out there that are conducive to having an indoor sale.
Ideal for
auctions.
indoor auctions, yes.
So there's plenty of place to park and nice buildings to keep things inside, and there's a area for people to gather to have an auction. So lots of other. There's campers that come out. I think Memorial Day weekend there's a camper group that comes out. We've got the hookups for the campers out there, so we have a nice area for that where people can meet and camp and get together. So
I call that ghetto camping.
Ghetto camping, yeah. So lots of other. It's used year round for several different events and not just the fair. And we need those events. I mean. It's getting thinner and thinner every year with what the state, the condition the state's in, and the dollars that, when I first got on the fair board, I've lost track. I think I've been on there for, 10 years maybe now, or a little better, but, the money that we get kicked back from the state of Department of Ag for premiums was, something like 38% back then, and it's well below 20% now. So just in the time that I've been on the fair board, we've just gotten crunched, and so it makes us as a fair board have to come up with other ways of keeping afloat to be able to have a fair. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, Dave, time does take its toll on everything. Back in the halcyon days of the fair, the harness races were really a very big thing. I mean, that was a really big thing. One of the reasons for the Logan County's preeminence in that is we were always just a week ahead of the state fair, and the horsemen would come in there and they use this as a nice tune-up.
Exactly.
And we used to draw some very, very good standard breds.
And we still do.
And we still have some nice races that come along here.
Yeah, that's still true. And this year, a lot of people, some people may have noticed, some people may not have. We've extended the dates of the fair 2 days, and so our fair is going to start. The technical dates of the fair this year, July 27th through August 3rd, which it starts on a Sunday rather than a traditional Tuesday this year. And the reason for that is we moved the harness races that have been in the past several years on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. We moved those to Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So the first 3 days we're going to have harness races, and the reason that we had to move the fair dates is because to get the money back from the state of Illinois to help with the premiums for the horse races, they had to fall within the dates of the fair. So we moved the dates of the fair up just 2 days. Now, there's really, other than the horse races going on, starting at 1:30 all those days, not a lot. The dog shows, cat shows, all the regular stuff that always happened with the fair is still going to be on the same dates and same times. The carnival won't be going on Sunday or Monday. Just the horse races will. But Sunday, going back to your point earlier about the classy horses coming to the state, coming to the Logan County Fair. We'll have the Downstate Classic on Sunday, which is there's over $50,000 worth of purses that day for county fair racing. So that's a big deal. These are some of the best horses in the state, and they're prepping. They'll go on to the Illinois State Fair Colt Stakes the next week down in Springfield. So
that's one of the it's kind of Americana, the standardbred races. That's just kind of a really. It's a Norman Rockwell type scene.
It is.
It's a wonderful thing, and it kind of reminds me of, as a matter of fact, the movie was called State Fair, and it featured Will Rogers, and he was a driver in a sulky.
Yeah, that's a neat experience. I've had the good fortune of trying that a time or two. I've gotten to know some of those horsemen down at Springfield, and I've been fortunate enough to have a couple let me do that before, and my experience was just jogging them on a track and a practice jog. I'm not afraid of speed most of the time, but I can't imagine being behind one of those in a sulky going 35 miles an hour and having 3 or 4 of them around me with no buckle or anything holding you in. Just your feet in the stirrups and going.
One time I had an opportunity to ride in the pace car in the back seat and look out the back windshield. And of course they're right there because the gates come out and go in on the sides of the car, so they're right at the back window. And my gosh, their nostrils are flared, and they look like a beast. They're so ready, so anxious to begin. It was just something I'll never forget.
Yeah, it's a neat experience. Those horse
storytelling, that's graphic.
The horse people, and for all the people at the fair, really,
they're solid folks.
They're solid folks, and they're very nice folks. I mean, I've ridden in the starting gate too, and it's because I was standing along the fence and asked the guy, "Hey, does anybody ever get to ride in that?" And he didn't know me from Adam, and he said, "Sure, come on and we'll give you a ride." So
that'd be an experience.
They're very nice people, and that's what you'll find at the fair. I mean, that's what the fair is all about. There's a lot of old timers that go to the fair every year, and I know. I'm not throwing my dad under the bus. He's 73, but there's people, he goes to the fair and he sees those people once a year, and that's where he sees them, is at the county fair. And old acquaintances that, those are old.
Oh, that he's known since he was a boy.
Exactly.
I'm sure.
And probably he's known them because that friendship or that acquaintance started at the fair showing years ago.
Sure.
Exhibitors changed, too, as they naturally down through the years. It used to be that there was really a very large exhibit of farm machinery out there.
Yeah.
And I know my kids, 2 boys, were climbed on every doggone tractor on the ground,
And we're still fortunate to have those people there, too. Cross Brothers down at Pulaski, the John Deere dealer, and Central Illinois Ag right up the road here.
Yeah, we're right close, which is nice to have.
They bring that equipment every year, and they're a big part of our fair. We don't want to lose those type of people. Yeah. People come to look at that stuff, and part of the reason they come to the fair is to see those things. We're very appreciative of those folks that support the fair and support those 2 that I just, along with Rolf Simpleman over Hartsburg. Those are 3 of my sponsors
Standard bearers.
Well,
They
they're
really
an
are.
integral part of the fair, and
Yeah.
they're those three that I just mentioned are they help sponsor the concert at the fair that I'm so deeply involved with. So without them, we wouldn't be able to. The fair wouldn't be able to do a lot of things, and we surely wouldn't be able to tackle the concert. The big concert on Saturday night that we'll put on.
That's a different thing too, and we want to talk about that just a minute. First, we're going to ask station engineer and producer if he'll flip some switches and go into some commercials. And right back live in the studio here, the program is Viewpoint. Our guest this morning is Mr. Dave Irwin. Dave is very actively involved with the Logan County Fair, and we're doing a little reminiscing, talking about the fair, and it's it has a significant impact commercially, economically here in our community. We were talking just before the station break about the Midway and so forth. Down through the years, the Logan County Fair, Dave, has been known and noted to have a fine, well-organized, clean Midway, not a carny, so to speak.
Right.
And I use that term advisedly, but there is a difference.
Sure.
And down through the years, we've been able to draw a quality of Midway attractions.
Well, for many years we had Lures Ideal Rides here,
yes, they were top
and they're a class outfit out of Alton, Illinois, and it was unfortunate a few years back that their hometown festival that they obviously wanted to be a part of down there, naturally wanted to be a part of, changed the dates and moved it to the date of our county fair. So there were some people that were upset that Lures wasn't around anymore, and
Well, there's no point in being upset.
No.
There's nothing you can do about that.
That's right.
If
They
it's
made
their
a
hometown, it's their hometown.
They made a business decision to go to their hometown, and I don't think
who can fault
anybody
them
can
for that?
fault them for that.
No.
So now we've got a good reputable. Actually, it happened the year before. They came to us. Lures came to us and suggested the amusement company we have now, and I think they've done a good job. And we've
Working out
got a good clean Midway with some fun rides for the kids, and a lot of people enjoy that part of the fair.
I wasn't around for the society horse shows, but I can remember when I worked out there, people coming in and talking about the society horse shows, and evidently that was really kind of like a My Fair Lady type thing.
That was
in that people got all dressed up and went out there, and it was a big affair.
It was a big deal.
packed the grandstand.
It packed the grandstand.
people buy boxes
Everybody got dressed up for it, bought box seats, and it was. I not to throw the old timers under the bus again, but I hear a lot of old timers talk about those days. So
Well, they were fun. Those are the days the American Legion had a good band, and they always sat in the center of the infield with the little fence around it, the decorations and so forth, and they played, and we would have Rummy Crumb out there in the middle, announce, tell them to rack on, boys, or trot, bring your tracers in, and the whole 9 yards. And it was a fun evening.
Yeah.
Also, we made some money selling programs.
A lot of fellowship back then.
Yeah, different time. You know, grandstand acts. They must be very difficult to come by today. Again, we're moved on to a different world now and different times. And as Wilbur Wayman used to say, as Judy just alluded to a few minutes ago off air, booking those acts for the fair, you had to either catch them coming up or going down. And that's difficult.
It's still true today for the most part. It's a tough process. It's tougher than I ever dreamt it would be when this is my 6th year of this, but it's so hard to match up who you think you want with what you think you can afford, and then if all that stuff falls together, then it has to work out for them and their routing. So, in other words, you know, if I think I want this person and I think I can afford this person, then I gotta hope that they're not out on the West Coast somewhere or the East Coast, or more than, I think their rule of thumb is 500 or 600 miles away, if they're within 600 miles the night before for a show, they can get here.
Wow.
Otherwise, the routing doesn't work out.
Right.
So
Now, do you work with agents on those folks? Do they
I
have
do.
those?
I work with Variety Attractions out of Zanesville, Ohio. Chris Hesse is the guy's name that I've been dealing with for 5 years now, and 6 years. 6 years now, and he's very helpful. I mean, he kind of knows. He knows me. I know him now, and we've got a good relationship. He knows about what my budget is, and so we'll meet at the Cracker Barrel and have lunch one day. Probably our fair will get over in August, and 2 months later or less, I'm meeting with him to talk about the next year. So Thomas Rhett, that's going to be there this year, that really started in October of last year. So that whole process starts really early, and you submit. Well, I was lucky enough. Thomas Rhett was really my first choice this year, and we got him. And he's had 2 number-1 songs here on the country charts here in the last several months. So, I'm very excited about this year. In the past we've had Tracy Lawrence and Lone Star, who were stars back in the 90s and had number-1 hits, and they were more my era when I was in my 20s, and listening to a lot of country music then. I enjoyed those very much because that was back in my wheelhouse.
Sure.
Well, now I'm a country music fan all the way through, so I can go either way, but Thomas Rhett I think is who the kids, anybody that listens to country, even myself. I went over and saw him. He was at Rushville, Illinois Saturday night at the Schuyler County Fair over there. He's going to be very good. He puts on a really good show. He's got a lot of the more hip songs, I guess, that the young kids will really like, and then he's got some ballads too that are really kind of more traditional country music. So
how about a generational gap, James and Judy?
Yeah.
He hasn't mentioned one name that I know. One of your all-time great grandstand acts. You're even too young to remember this, Dave. But a fellow named of Dave Merrifield. And Dave did a trapeze act underneath a helicopter.
Oh, is that right?
Without anything, of course. He was just flying back and forth. The helicopter pilot flew him back and forth. And he did all these aerobatic acts up there on this trapeze hanging from below that helicopter.
Wow.
And that was, last I heard of today, he was down in Florida. He's retired now many years. But he was still doing, several years ago, doing some of this down in the state of Florida. And what I remember about that, Judy Kay, is that I got to know his pilot through Jack Bushel, who booked those acts in those days. And so we had a birthday party at our house for this pilot. And the next day, he took me up in that chopper, and I got a pretty good tour of Logan County.
I'll bet.
And it was a big deal.
Yeah.
First
Today
time
they'd be doing it in a drone, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's right. It's funny you mentioned a drone. Over at that concert Saturday night, the police had a drone out above the crowd the whole night.
Really?
It's sad a fact.
Watching that.
Kind of watch what's going on.
Yeah.
Dave, we've talked about kind of the major things about the Logan County Fair and what it's meant to us down through the years. But there's other features. Primarily, I'm working towards the 4-H projects and the cattle shows, and showing the kids, showing their sheep and their pigs and so forth. That's a big thing for the youngsters of that age.
Rams and ewees,
Yeah,
that is.
lambs, yes, the lambs and the ewees.
That's a lot of work.
It is.
People, that's quite a project. I noticed in the paper this morning. Some of the 4-H kids were recognized by, I believe, the Kiwanis Club, and that's the 4-H projects are more than just there's so much more to it than dragging a cow or a pig or a sheep or to the fair. They spend starting last year, whenever those animals are born, they spend a considerable amount of time figuring out what to feed those animals, how much to feed them, to get them in the right condition to show, to break them to lead, to fitting them, giving them haircuts, trimming their hooves.
Oh, they bathe them and take care of them like you'd take care of your child.
Exactly.
They
And
do.
and on top of all that, the time and the money that's spent on doing that sort of thing, but it's more than that. It's the record keeping too. 4-H is record keeping. It's not just doing those things. It's keeping records of what you did, and that teaches you so much more later in life, because there isn't any of us that doesn't need to know how to keep a checkbook or keep some records for income tax purposes or whatever business you're in. Those kind of things, 4-H and FFA both prepare you for those things. And 4-H is a lot more than that. You've got photography, you've got vegetables, crops.
It's for city kids as well.
Oh, yeah, there's more city kids involved in 4-H now than there is farm kids.
Since got an A in a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I remember that.
Yeah. Case in point.
It was kind of a case of pride for me.
Yes. Yeah. So, it's all kinds of things. Everybody can be involved in 4-H, but it teaches those kids all those skills, whether you're making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or if you've got a 220-pound barrel to show.
But it's the responsibility that they have to accept for whatever their project is.
That's right.
And boy, I'll tell you, we need an awful lot more kids being responsible.
Yeah.
And that's no fooling.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you too about the Scramble kids. Don't they show their trophy they won in the Scramble?
They do, yeah. They come back the next year and show the steers that they caught in the Scramble the year before. And so those Scrambles are on Wednesday night, so that's part of the attraction of the fair. That draws a big crowd because the grandmas and grandpas and moms and dads and everybody are watching, and
and you don't have to be a relative to enjoy it, because those kids go out there, they got a purpose in mind.
It's good cheap entertainment, I'll tell you.
It is.
So
you couldn't put the fair on without a large cadre of dedicated volunteers.
Oh my! You have no idea.
I'm thinking of of just home economics displays and so forth, the photography displays, the things in the merchants' tents and so forth.
Exactly.
All those things have to be set up and organized and attended to.
There are a massive amount of volunteers at the fair. Us board members are all busy all week long. If the general public knew what Mike Mosky did at that fair year round, you'd have a hard time keeping up with him. I mean, there's just that much stuff that goes on, in his world, trying to run the place. The volunteers for every department, if you look down through the fair book, there's a multitude of departments, and underneath all those departments are a multitude of volunteers that are making those departments run, and it just takes a massive amount of volunteers, and without those volunteers, the fair wouldn't happen.
Exactly.
It's just that simple.
I forgot that we do have a telephone here, and the number is 648-5510. Somebody might out there in the ether world might have a significant or particular memory of what they enjoyed in the years past. Or comments about the administration. We can take constructive criticism, can't we, Mr.
You bet.
Irwin?
We're open to it. We're always trying to make the fair better. So, Thomas Rhett came about as a result of a suggestion from a long-time person showing beef cattle at the fair, and we looked into it, and I asked the promoter about it, and he thought that'd be a great fit, and I'm very excited about this. Say another thing I wanted to mention, if I may. The Friday night show, we're going to have a new Friday night show at the fair this year. It's going to be little monster trucks. And we've all seen these great big monster trucks. Well, these are a scaled down version of the monster trucks.
Like that kids sit in and drive, is that?
These are 7 to 14-year-old kids that drive these trucks, and they jump over cars, and they will have some cars out there and some ramps, and they'll have a little skit to put on. Very family-friendly, family-oriented. Like they have an American Girl truck. They have they're all themed. All the trucks are painted and themed after young kids type things.
Heroes.
They promote a very positive message about anti-bullying and that sort of thing, and I think it's going to be a really good show. I'm hoping it catches on real big this year, but I think if these people come to the show and see what they're about, I think it has a chance to blow up and be a really big deal in the future years too, because they'll be here and on display. They'll be able to go up and get these kids' autographs and get their picture with the trucks and stuff. So we're pretty excited about that. And, we were looking for something more family oriented to entertain on Friday night, and we're hopeful that this might fill a gap for us.
Well, fair and family are synonymous, aren't they?
Exactly. So the tickets are $8 for that night. It costs money, obviously, to bring these acts here, and we try to keep it as reasonable as possible. The almighty dollar is, on everybody's mind now, and you just don't want to get something in there that you're going to have to charge so much for that you're going to drive people away. So
that's going to be a difficult juggling act.
It is a juggling act. Exactly.
The economics being what they are.
You can't be like government and decide what you're going to do and then
fund it somehow.
grow more money.
Well, whatever. I keep mentioning, and every time I get the chance to have a few people listen to me, I beat on the fact that without these sponsors that help us, more near and dear to me is the Saturday night show because I'm so involved with that. But regardless of that, the entire fair, without our sponsors, without the people that come down to the 4-H auction on Sunday afternoon, and all these businesses that
support these kids
and support the 4-H and the kids, I mean, just all the way around. And that Saturday night show is a major undertaking as far as dollars are concerned, and without all of our sponsors, there's no way we could make it happen. And if everybody listening gets a chance, please go to our website at LoganCountyFairIL.com, and those sponsors are listed on there, and along with all the acts, the fair book. We've done a little better job at our website in the last few years with the help of David Doolin. So we sure appreciate
that'd be good help.
Sure appreciate his efforts too. So
I have a money question for you. You talked early on about the Sunday night purse for this race, and I believe you used the figure of $50,000.
Yes.
Now, how in the world did you get them to cough up that kind of money? Why?
Well,
Why does it happen that way?
Well, it's actually the Sunday afternoon. It'll be at 1:30, and this is a series of races called the Downstate Classic.
Yes.
And these part of the money is put up by the fair, part of the money is put up by the Illinois Department of Agriculture, and part of the money is put up by the Downstate Classic organization. And when these horses are born, if you think you've got a horse that comes from bloodlines that could be
promising,
then you nominate that horse when it's born. You may have a $200 or $400 nomination fee to put that horse's name into the hat to be eligible to race in 2 years when they're a 2-year-old for these races. And so there's a pool of money that's gathered, and as you get further on down the line, then they're nominated again. If you still think they're good enough as a yearling when they're 1 year old, then you put more money up and nominate them again to keep them eligible. And then when they get to 2, if they come around, they made the races and they're good enough to race and good enough to get to that race, then you pay the entry fee to race them, and then they race for that money. And so there's a there's a pool of money that's built up over time of people thinking they have a good enough horse to race. It goes into this fund, and that's what the Downstate Classic does. Is it administers and governs that money to be used for purses for this day. So
has to be a labor of love in the horse business, because there are precious few who make real money in
that's
that.
Exactly right.
There's a lot. It has to be a real sport to a lot of folks. Most of them will dip into their pockets by the end of the year.
That's right.
And come up in the red figures.
There's a lot of money spent on them, and I'm not sure how many people get a reward out of it. There's a lot of fun to be had, though. If you
It's
go
a great
to
American sport.
If you go to the races, it's so much fun, and but there's people that have fun in the stands too. I'm excited about having them Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, because I hope that a lot of these people travel, and they'll stay overnight in our hotels or at the barns or whatever out there, spend their money here. And the other part of the reason that we moved is because there were 4 other county fairs in Illinois racing on those other days. We were competing with 4 other county fairs that had horse races going on at the same time. And moving those up to Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we're only competing with about 1 or 2 other county fairs in hopes of
Which gives you better races.
It gives us better races, and hopefully it brings us more horses. Instead of having 3 or 4 in a race, I'd love it if there was 8 in every race.
Well, every horse is every bit as smart as I ever was, and I've already figured out that you can't be 2 places at once.
That's exactly right. So we're hoping, we made that change for several reasons, but we're hopeful that it draws more horses, and we should, because we're competing with less fairs at that time.
What is the span of age of a horse in the racing business? Now, you've mentioned yearlings and 2-year-olds. Then do they race when they're 3?
Well, they don't race until they're 2. So they race at 2, they race at 3, and then they can race clear. I think they put a cap on it. I don't think the United States Trotting Association will let a horse. Don't quote me on this, but I think it's 14 or 15.
Is that right?
Yeah. If they're sound and their legs, everything's still okay with the horse physical wise, I think they can race till they're 15, but they don't race until they're 2. So these are, when I'm talking about the Downstate Classic on Sunday, July 27th, these are the races for 2-year-olds. These are all 2-year-olds that will race for that big money on that day. The 3-year-old Downstate Classic, we have a 3-year-old version of the Downstate Classic, and that was a month ago, and that was at Carrollton, at the Greene County Fair in Carrollton. So
is there ever any chance that they might elect to have the 3-year-olds here?
Well, we that's kind of a bidding process. I'm on the Downstate Classic board also. And
that ought to help.
So each member, there's 4 members of each place where the races are being held that are on the Downstate Classic board. So the 3-year-olds used to be held up until this year. They were held at Decatur at the Macon County Fair in June, and that fair had some major financial difficulties, and they didn't have a fair this year in Decatur.
I was sad to see that.
And so that's that's part of the struggles we talked about at the beginning of the show here about the funding and all the other activities that go on at the fair. We need all those things to help generate income through the years. So,
well, quick closing question, Dave. The clock's moved around on us again, Judith K., and I don't know how that happens. I'm going to put you in charge of that.
That's probably
in here, years to pass, the Hayes boys down at DuQuoin, the DuQuoin State, they called it the DuQuoin State Fair in those days. Very big thing.
Yeah.
Is it still in a premier position that it used to be?
Well, the DuQuoin, it's still called the DuQuoin State Fair, and the Hayes fellas that you're talking about were very instrumental in the horse racing down there. They still have, here at the state fair, they still have when their grand circuit comes to town for the horse races in Springfield, there's still one of those races that's called the Hayes Memorial. So
Hayes Fair Acre Stables.
Yeah, and it's still a big agricultural fair down there. What is that, Labor Day weekend, I believe, or around Labor Day is when that fair is. They had the biggest horse race of the year for the standard breds is the Hambletonian, and they had it years ago down in DuQuoin. It's out the Meadowlands in New Jersey now, but
big money got
and
in
then
there.
for many years they had the World Trotting Derby down there, which was a $500,000 race, but and they don't have that anymore either. But horse racing is still prevalent in Illinois with the state fair and the DuQuoin State Fair, and then of course all the county fairs around. So
Our guest this morning has been Dave Irwin. We've been discussing good old days and the current days in regards to Logan County Fair. Urge everybody out there. It's a lifetime experience to go out there and enjoy. Just walk around and watching what's going on. If you're a people watcher, it's a fun thing. I couldn't find any quotes about county fairs. I did find some about agriculture, which is related, of course. Obviously, that was the idea. We had, as a matter of fact, we go back up to Jim's hometown. They had the county fair up here in Atlanta, Illinois.
That's right.
Way back in eons ago. That was before my time. Anyway, I found one about politics make strange bedfellows. Also strange authority when it comes to the farm problems. Thank you very much for Viewpoint.